Hello, and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. I'm Paul Davenport, Boast resident tech journalist and head of content, and today I'm thrilled to welcome to the show Stephen V, lead solutions engineer at VizworX Inc. VizworX is a custom software development company based out of Calgary that specializes in transforming complex data sets into comprehensive, interactive solutions that address specific business challenges across a range of use cases. His team leverages a variety of advanced technologies, including AR, VR, AI, IoT, geospatial data mapping, biometric evaluation, and a wealth of custom visualization solutions to provide clients with the best solutions specific to their needs. Stephen leads the full project lifecycle for XR, web, and cross-platform solutions, guiding cross-functional teams from requirement gatherings through deployment. All to say, he's been behind the scenes of some pretty incredible tech that takes a novel but impactful approach to tackling both broad and specific business challenges. It's a very cool story, and I can't wait to pick Stephen's brain. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you. Great intro. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, no, you have quite the impressive resume. So the excitement isn't being forced here, especially when I'm going through that list of the advanced technologies that your team gets your hands on. I know that our team loves working with you guys because A, you're doing some really cool stuff, but you're also very collaborative and you're also very part of the community. I know that Kyle on our team actually met up with you guys in person a few weeks back. I know we've demoed some of your solutions, but Stephen, I want to focus on you to kick things off. Tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got into the space, how you got into being a tech guru in the first place, and then how you got to VizworX.
Yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned, I'm the lead solutions engineer. So, in many ways, I live at that intersection between kind of technology and business problems. So, I really act as that technical bridge between, our customers and what they're trying to do to actually figure out how we actually implement it. Because before this, but the kind of business and side of things has been a bit more newer, but my kind of background really lies in the heavy in the technicals. So I was before I went to VizworX, I was heavy in R&D, so doing a lot of research development at the University of Calgary around understanding new tech and figuring out how we can utilize it to kind of leading my way from that to VizworX. So then, like you mentioned, we do a lot here that really, is almost R&D-esque, right? Except for we do try to apply that to the business, the real business community. But we do work with a lot of advanced technologies, and we do provide a lot of solutions there. So for me, I started as a software developer at VizworX and was software developer to leading some teams, to working on, like you say, a variety of different projects and really get my hands wet in the development side of things. And I really love the building part of it. I think over time, though, especially recently, it's not just about building. It's about kind of figuring out what you're building. How does that impact the greater community? So for me, it's been this kind of evolution of getting my hands wet, sitting down and writing code to, okay, what am I building and how does that solve? So that's where I am today. Really part of that technical bridge, but it's been a fun journey, I'm sure. It changes also rapidly. So it's the ever moving environment.
Oh, totally. And again, it's that technical bridge that I think gives you such unique perspective too, because I think you alluded to something that a lot of folks who are very deep in like the development side or the research side or just even the engineering side, you don't always look up to see like, what am I working on in practice? Like, what is this actually going to look like in the real world? What are going to be the downstream impacts of everything that I'm doing? And I think what you guys do at VizworX, again, it's very problem solution centric, which again is why it's kind of like the perfect company to partner with Boast for R&D tax credits and things like Shred, just because the ultimate goal is to solve problems, is to tackle technological uncertainty, to actually make the world a better place and to drive new innovation, not just, again, put the same Band-Aid on the same problem every single time, develop some net new solutions. And I love, Stephen, that you have both that technical mindset, but when people hear the business side, they might get cynical and think about, oh, how are we going to profit off this? No, you're just kind of extra curious about how these things actually play out in the field, how it actually comes into reality and that impact out there. And it ties in very well. And I think that's just like a perfect marriage of your skill sets that brings you to where you're at now, leading the teams on a lot of these projects, which I think is so cool. And I do also want to call back to a point that you made too earlier about you were very involved in R&D at University of Calgary. I think there's a common, not maybe misunderstanding, but going back to the shred of it all, there's kind of those three key pillars. It's that basic research, it's the applied research, and then it's the experimental development. And I think people get very hung up on basic or applied, one or the other. And I think, sure, in like the educational space, it is that more you're doing the research, you're getting boned up on the knowledge of the actual problem and all of that. And then it's the applied part where you do start building products and you do start building solutions. And I don't think they're in competition with each other. I don't know where I'm digressing with this, but it is something that's come up on webinars in the past and just a lot
Yeah.
of people asking about the SHRED program and how they could capitalize and just the nuances between those kind of two arenas, basic and applied. I don't know if you have a thought on that in your experience about how you guys tackle one versus the other and what it's made an impact on in terms of what you guys do at VizworX.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've kind of hit a nail on the head. It's this weird thing where there's definitely differences between the two, but in many ways, I think they are the same thing. I think a lot of the initial research when you're doing, especially at the University of Calgary, is really understanding kind of the process and around it, and really less around kind of the greater impact. But you need to get down to the core fundamentals of what you're trying to research, right? And sometimes the business side, when you get into there, can kind of cloudy that up a bit, right? So I think part of the research, those initial R&D research, it's just a bit more of a different perspective on it. But ultimately, what you want to do at the university, you don't want to just stay there. You ultimately wanted to have impact. And I think that's where you see a lot of it's funny when I joined VizworX, and there's a lot of things that we're discussing now that's like, oh, someone did that 20 years ago. There's a paper on it I read 20 years ago. So it's really that it does happen, right? Where the research does apply kind of both this applied and the basic side. It's really just trying to find the right, and a lot of it's timing too, right? It's the right time, the right place for these research to actually become to the mainstream and become part of the business world to adopt. So
You're completely right. And I think you actually kind of explained what I was getting at much better than I could have. And that you need that foundation. And I think people get hung up on like, okay, we have these three, the basic, the applied, and then the actual experimental development. And in a lot of cases, that basic research is a foundation that you want to lay. And I think sometimes people will go about shred and actually skip that step a little bit, or not necessarily do their own research to see, hey, was this maybe done 20 years ago, or was this investigated 20 years ago? Getting that understanding out the gate and then seeing how the applied research is going to change that baseline understanding. That's really what I think the CRA is getting at when they're going deep into those classifications. And sorry to diverge on that. I just think it's a very interesting point, especially because you were so involved in the academic scene with all of that. So, yeah, thank you for hearing me out and speaking to that.
course. No, it's definitely a different perspective, right? I think the academic scene there's a lot of cool things going on there. And it's funny how that there are kind of bubbles. So the more we can kind of open communication pathways to get kind of communications between industry and between university and that research open. Because like you said, there's a lot that is the same. You just kind of have to find that pathway.
Absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. Now, as we speak about some of these applied applications of the research and the ED that everybody's doing, let's talk a little bit more about what you guys are actually working on at VizWorks. So, what is unique about what you guys do? I know I listed a lot of buzzwords there in the
Yeah.
intro, but I'd love to dig into what it all means and how you guys actually are building these solutions and the kind of customers that you're helping.
For sure. So, like at VizworX, as you mentioned, we do a lot of things, right? So, in many ways, I would summarize what we do is we provide software solutions, try to solve a business problem, and we do that through like advanced technologies. And often we do that, and kind of the bigger problems nowadays is around data. people have so much data, they need to comprehend it. And so we really have focused around data visualizations and help people understand it to make better decisions. Now that comes in terms of practical different forms. We do a lot of custom solutions. Like I said, a lot of projects we help work with companies and build something for their needs. And then we also partner with different companies. We also build out our own product. So some of the work we're doing in our own product is around virtual operations environments. So one of the technology and one of the problems that we're looking at is kind of distributed command centers. So when you're out in the field, one thing we find is we have a lot of people in, say, an emergency response scenario. They need to build out these command and control to do a lot of planning there. But it's a lot of like physical labor, a lot of hard setup to do. So we've kind of used VR and AR as a portable command center. Something where you can say, hey, we have a secure, portable, customizable virtual environment that lets you kind of access your data in real time, as well as allow for collaboration and supporting these distributed environments anywhere, anytime. And like these headsets, like I have one here, you can just throw in your backpack and go. So that's one of our products that we're building out. We're quite excited about.
Oh, that is so cool. I had mentioned that Kyla from our team and a few other members were playing around with some of your solutions, and have so many pictures of Kyla in the headset. And I'm just like, what are you doing? That makes so much sense, though, about just, again, the distributed environment. You got to do it all virtually and, again, get all the data. Could you dive in a little bit, too, about just like how has this improved on the old way of doing things? I think it's probably a little obvious. In my mind, I'm like, hey, I work fully remote. I'm distributed from my team in every sense of the word. If I didn't have a platform like Teams or a platform like Zoom for my communications role, I'd be in the lurch. But let's say I had a lot more technical work, or I had a team where we really, really needed to keep the lines of communication open despite the many miles between us. Is that kind of what we're talking about here with that distributed command center?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and we always say that for, your command center, a lot of people have always invested. Those are great. We're not saying replace it, but there are situations, like you said, you're remote, that you do need to talk to, say, people in the field. And maybe you also need to talk to someone like in a case of like emergency planning, like someone from the government's involved. So you have these people that need to be involved, but are distributed around the world because that's just the world we live in. We live in this very distributed environment. So not only, but of course there are teams and like that, but what we find is a lot of times we're dealing with data that is 3D. And that's one thing we think about these technologies, not just these are screens on your head, but they naturally create 3D environments. And when you're dealing with a lot of times 3D data, like geospatial, so you naturally are able to better understand the environment around you and the visualization. And going back to like what we do and understanding your data, that's where these technology comes in. Not only can we kind of collaborate remotely, but we can look at, say, a 3D data set and be able to plan around that and be able to understand the data itself.
So cool. This is a bit of a tangent on my end. I'm reading a book about it's called City on Mars right now. I'm a little bit of a I call it urban planning, even though this is off-planet planning, but it talks a lot about the environments and just basically just what to expect when you're on a foreign planet or when you're on a place that you can't touch and feel, but we have a lot of data about what to expect there. And I feel like maybe that's not a specific application that you guys are doing at VizworX, but my mind went immediately to that. I'm like, okay, we could start troubleshooting some of the big problems that are not as big as they could be out in space, but doing things like that with the data that we have at hand so we can action on things despite the limitations that we might actually have physically between each other or between the locations we want to be at. I think that is so cool, Stephen. Uh, and
Yeah.
apologies if that has nothing to do with the offering, but
No, not
it
at
piques my
all.
interest there. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, but like a lot of times we show this, and then a lot of this, in some parts is inspired by science fiction, right? When I'm talking about these 3D like map tables, you probably saw those in movies. And a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
times we look at those as like, wow, okay, that's actually cool. That's actually interesting. Let's explore. There's actually a business value. You do need to validate them. But these ideas, they resonate to you in science fiction. It's the reason why they resonate in some, some capacity there. So for us, especially when you deal with advanced technology, it's that science fiction is not too far off. Of course, we always need to ground ourselves, right? And like you said, we start from the beginning. It's about the business problem, not the technology. But doesn't mean you can't, get inspired by all those things like science fiction.
Oh, I love that. And actually, that's a great way to actually pull it back to my next question, which is around how you guys actually like fund the innovation and the development that you guys do. To your point, fundamentally at VizworX, you guys are a business and you got to solve business problems and problems for other companies and for other clients. And yeah, it's not cynical, but again, it is just the fact of the matter. Science fiction's great, but how can in 2025 we use the tools that we have at hand to accomplish the tasks that we have on our plates? So I know that I have mentioned extensively. We work with you guys a lot. You guys work with us for your for your shred claims every year. Again, Canadian R&D tax credits, shred claims, and even beyond shred. How do you guys go about kind of just like embarking on the R&D that you do? Whether or not we want to get into the nitty gritty of funding, that's okay. But how do you guys just put together the R&D that you do? How do you execute your product roadmaps? Maybe even like what do your teams look like, or what structuring do you do to make sure that you guys are the most efficient? And we can take it any way, but I'd love to hear about again specifically your product development and your R&D.
Yeah. So I think, like I've kind of mentioned, the way we do business is kind of, as you can tell, a bit sporadic, but a fundamental core is really these custom solutions, right? Where we do work with clients, understand their problems, and we can ensure that we have a good relationship with them, and we can have them work with them to help build that out from funding perspective, and they provide the funds for that. For that too, we also partner with other companies that may say need kind of a technical hand, but also are good more on the funding side of things, and then we can provide that technical arm. But then there's also the more product side, and that from there we do look at these like grants, right? So and that's where the work with Boast has been amazing, where we can understand that hey, we've kind of and a lot of times our projects are kind of building off the previous project, whether that's partnerships or whether that is custom solutions. So we can have that kind of funding as kind of a baseline, but then use these grants as to figure out the next steps because part of this is there's always a bit of risk and we work with clients who are happy to fund and they see the opportunity there, but working with both and ensuring that we are making the most of these government grants to help us move things along because there is inherent risk to this development side of things. We use that and then we kind of take it from there. But that's kind of a brief rundown of how we fund a lot of these projects.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. And I think it's also like good due diligence on your part to explore every possible funding avenue, even for the partners that you're working with, for instance, like R&D tax credits. If you qualify, that could satisfy 60 cents on the dollar for your team's payroll, for instance. If you explore other grants, there are so many. I don't want to get into the Alberta specific ones, but I mean like IDMTC, tons of clean tech grants all over the place that the government wants to give companies that are worthy of it. So if you're working with a partner, they probably want to see that, oh, wow, these guys are savvy. And not only are they exploring every possible avenue for funding that they can to drive their innovation, if the government's going to give them the money, this is true innovation. This is truly something new. This is truly something unique and something custom. I'm glad that we keep on coming back to that kind of being like the core of the offer because that's kind of the core of Shred. Like, it's not necessarily building custom tools for everybody else, but building something unique, something that's not out there off the shelf, and we're just repurposing an age-old solution. Some solutions aren't broken yet, so we want to keep using them. Some solutions just need to keep being improved upon, keep tweaked. Sometimes we got to build something fully custom, and I think that's where it's magic. And again, you can unlock more funding. It looks good when you have those partnerships. And it also, again, puts you in good standing just with like the government too. They know that you're driving innovation. So they're going to understand next time you come claiming, oh, these guys are legitimate. We're going to take them seriously. And there's probably a lower barrier to entry. Don't want to put words in the CRA's mouth at that point because, again, don't want to write checks we can't cash here, but
Yeah.
I just think it's good business practice and it's good due diligence. And I love that your team does that too. Because you're not a traditional, let's say, like private business who are just building a singular point and place solution. You are finding those partners and you're helping them come up with those custom value adds that they absolutely need. And to your point about being sporadic too, it's because you're picking the really cool stuff. Not necessarily you're being discriminate, but you're really working on problems that you're like, let's get in the nitty gritty with it. Let's focus on this and make sure it works. So
Yeah.
I think, oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you said that, perfectly, right? For us, especially when we're dealing, because we always say we lead problem first. And when you're dealing with a problem, you work backwards, it's going to be sporadic, right? And you're gonna have to figure things out. So that's like for us where we're deep into tech side of things. We need partners who better understand this. So that's where Boast comes in to help us kind of navigate. Because look, we're really good at a lot of things, especially in technical side, but sometimes we need help, especially making sure that we're getting, full use of this. So
Yeah, and I think now you're hitting at the ethos of what we do here at Boast too. We want to make sure that you guys aren't getting bogged down trying to navigate tax policy. That's not what you're here for. You're here to drive that innovation. You have a skill set that we don't necessarily have, so we're not going to pretend that we could do the R&D that you do. But we speak the technical language and we also speak the tax policy language. So again, message to everybody out there, don't try to necessarily do it yourself. You won't get a good outcome. And also, you're just going to get derailed from what your main mission is. Focus on driving innovation, work with partners like us, maximize your funding. It's win win all around. I know that sounds more salesy than I usually get on this call, but I feel like the ethos of what you guys do and what we do really complements each other in that realm. It's similar to how you serve your customers. You're going to help them get that solution while they can focus on building a business or whatever other arena that they need to actually see the growth that they need while you guys tackle the heavy advanced tech R&D that they need to out
yeah.
in tandem. It's beautiful. Now, Stephen, I know we're coming up on time, so I'd love to know what's next for you and your team. What's on the roadmap? Any fun projects you maybe can key us into early on, or any updates, or just like the team in general or the company in general that we can mark our calendars towards?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I think we are kind of continuing as is. Like I did talk about that project, but that one for us has been a very exciting project, and we are showing this off a lot and are getting a lot of traction from there. So I'd keep an eye around those virtual operation environments that we're building. Other than that, part of this is the world's moving, technology is moving at a great space. So I can't give you the full what's next because I know the moment I say something, something else is going to come up. But for us, that's the fun of it. So
No, and and also that's, I think, the key point of all of this. That's the fun of it for you guys. You guys are having fun. You're doing serious work. You're doing serious R&D. You're coming up with very serious solutions, but you're having fun and you're focused. And it's not just, okay, we got to get as many customers at once. No, no, we're going to get into it and we're going to really focus and we're going to have fun while we're doing it. I love that. And again, that's why we love working with your team. You guys are so collaborative. You let us touch and feel some of the R&D that you guys actually drive out. We see the fruits of your labor and our shred claims out in the market. So it's a beautiful relationship. And I'm so happy that, Stephen, I can connect with folks like you who, again, bridge that gap between tech and business. I only got a little bit of the business and a little bit of the tech, but I feel like I learn every time I talk to people who know the full scope of it all. So I appreciate you giving me your time.
I appreciate it, Paul. It's been fun.